Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin Wei on Time Monk Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is the founder and head teacher of Guizhen Philocultural Society. He has extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight, Lin will be discussing self-conflicting views about yourself. Welcome back, Lin.
Hello.
So you picked the most confusing title you could possibly think of, right, for this one?
Yeah, it's really funny. I figure it just makes us go, uh-huh? What did he just say? I really like that.
I'm still turning it around in my mind. So what exactly do you mean by self-conflicting views about yourself?
Have the person themselves kind of always doubting things that they do, or even believing what other people say about them that is opposite of how they empower themselves. For example, if I say, I look in the mirror this morning and I make ugly faces at myself and I start laughing and I think, okay, I'm stupid, but that's funny. Okay, I feel good, which is what I do every morning anyway. And then I go outside and someone says, look at this guy, he's a moron. And then I start believing what other people start saying, and then it kind of just conflicts with what I tell myself. And then I start believing what other people are saying and making it part of my whole entire manner of thinking throughout the day. Like, wow, these people think I'm a moron. Man, but I'm not. And then now I become a moron for believing what other people say. And then I kind of destroy or slowly take away my own empowerment and the power within to maintain, stability in your mind, in your heart. So conflicting views about yourself is you yourself having views you create that disempower you, and number two is believing what other people say about you that ridicules you, and then that takes away your power as well. When I say power, I just mean your own confidence, not an ego confidence or an arrogant confidence, just a stability that, even though it's temporary because it's relative, I'm not going into the cultivation part just yet, but just what we do daily by saying, okay, today we're going to do good, we're going to be good people, the affirmations you give yourself about you, you basically take them down. It's like you build a house every morning and then you break it by the end of the day.
So this topic, actually, you're admitting that there is a self, right?
No. This is now we go into the cultivation. So you just totally, let's see, you jumped about 25 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I did that on purpose. I was just trying to submarine you. All right, so let's leave that.
Wait, because if I go, yes, I do say there's a self, then what the hell did we record the last time we had our conversation? There is no self.
No,
wait, yes, there is.
I did that intentionally to trip you up. But okay, so let's start at the beginning. Okay, so
are you gonna ask me the question again? Okay.
No, we'll leave it for later. Okay, so I guess we'll just presuppose, what people generally accept as their self, right? And
well, basically, yeah. Let's clear that up. Good for good for throwing me the curveball and ending the recording 20 minutes earlier. When I say self, I mean it's just a metaphor. Okay, and we're just using the word self just as a way to focus on the topic at hand, just to let us look inside, okay, just to send that light back in and to look at what we actually construct and believe is a self, is an actual thing that we are identified with, or we make as actually this big, gigantic capital I, okay? So we have this thought that there is this self that gets attacked by other people or gets empowered by other people, that gets loved or hated by other people, and even by its own self itself. And we want to protect that. And in one of our past recordings, we were talking about this being a construct of views, the brain having a center that has this I must survive kind of vibration to it or function to it. So it creates this feeling like there must be a protection, and then we create views about it being that there is an I that must be protected. And then, boom, we have this self miraculously appearing. So when we have these views, when we have a view that says, I'm going to be wonderful today, I'm going to do different ways today, and I'm wonderful, I love myself, I'm a good person, and you go outside and you probably bump into somebody by accident, they go, you're an asshole, and you just totally feel shitty the whole day. And now you just accepted that other person's imposition of view.
Well,
And,
I think these things are being bombarded at us like incessantly
constantly
through the media, the music, the TV. You're not good enough, that you don't have enough money, you got to buy this product, etc. I mean, It's just in modern times, it's rampant.
We are constantly exactly bombarded by multitude of things totally conflicting with what we consider is going to be our construct of our safety net, ourself.
Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah, sorry about that. I just totally lost my train of thought there. So, okay, there's both external and our own internal, I guess you could say, doubts or insecurities or whatever.
The reason. Yeah, but we got to find the reason for that too, which is, I think we jumped ahead. There should be a question before this one.
There should be, did I miss the question?
No, we didn't get to it yet.
All right. Do you want to tell me what the question is so I can ask you?
Why is it that we believe we have these specific views about ourselves and are accepting the bombardment of other people's vibrations left and right? Well,
yes, that's what I was thinking.
Well, in a better way of putting it, remember, my English is becoming a very bad language for me right now.
Oh, we'll forgive you.
Thank you. So anyway, why do we have these views? Why do we have this need to either have to empower ourselves and or feel like we have to protect ourselves from other people's emotions and other people's views? Why do we have that need? And it goes to the idea that we are constantly feeding the view or the notion that there is an I, and we must make that I fit in somewhere with some purpose in our world amongst society.
I guess, I don't know if I'm kind of going off in a segue here, but from my perspective, anytime I find my ego gets too puffed up or too deflated or whatever, I just look at existence and I kind of think, well, you feel this way now, but this body or this incarnation is only, temporal. It's not going to last forever, right? So I guess that's one way you could kind of overcome that, or I don't know. What do you think?
Sure, but I mean, if it's cold outside, do you really want to run down the street naked? So it's kind of, when you're saying it that way, which I at one point, can agree with you, is that we're going to strip ourselves down to the core, which is nothing there and not nothing either. So where is there going to be a sense of identity? And most people feel like they must have a sense of identity in order to function or feel like there's a place in the world. So then they are constantly battling with, do other people see me the right way, or do they misinterpret how I am? And then they constantly create these ideas of, this inner conflict inside and this dialogue inside that goes, well, maybe I have to be this way, or maybe I have to be that way, or maybe I should be something else or different. Maybe I should wear these types of clothes, or maybe I should do this type of thing, or whatever, just so they can feel like there's a place for them.
It's like they're kind of molding themselves to try and fit a puzzle that's ever changing, right?
Pretty much. I mean, we want to hold on to something and find stability, which is kind of what we consider what most people would feel like is the nature of a human being, but it's more of a condition. We want to find a mannerism in which we can feel stable, safe, and unmoved, but we choose to attach ourselves to the things that are ungraspable. They're temporary. So
everything is temporary, though, right?
Yeah, but how many people really want to believe that? They don't want to believe it because it's scary to sit there and go, well, not that I don't matter, but I don't matter. You know? So what the hell am I going out working? Why do I buy a house for? Why did I get married? Why do I have kids? Why do I buy the cars I buy? I mean, we really want to ask ourselves these questions, though, because then that gets right down to the point of what the hell are we doing? We think most may think their purpose in life or their fate or their destiny is the way they're doing things, and they have it all in the palm of their hands. But really, it's more of a clothing that they're wearing that eventually fades away, and they'll never actually get to see what their quote unquote purpose would have actually been. They'll just live superficially with bits and pieces of epiphanies here and there about how they're going through things in their life.
Just basically distractions.
Yeah. And ideas about their own self. I mean, for example, to sit there and explain to someone why I wear Chinese clothes is a pain in the butt, because on one hand I say, well, I like it. It's comfortable. On the other hand, the lifestyle that I live doesn't require me to wear anything unless I like to. But I like loose-fitting clothes, and I like clothing that is like cotton. And I don't like it very heavy. So I wear like the long robes or the old style Chinese clothes. But that's just my own preference. Just so happens that the work I do is around that culture too, built up from when I was a kid. So,
but
if I wear a pair of jeans, people don't recognize me in the street at all,
but
which is fine.
Conversely, people could look at you and say, well, you're just kind of clothing yourselves in the trappings of something, and
no, they usually turn around and say that I'm crazy, delusional, and think I'm Chinese.
Yeah,
Let's
or
make it more simple, okay? And then for me to sit there and go, do you really want to know the truth, or do you just want to believe what you want to believe? And most people just want to believe what's easy, what's superficial, because they can eat it quickly, they can taste it quickly, and they can identify to it. So they can identify with the mental constructs they create, the trappings they create around me, in the assumption that I am exactly the way they assume it is. So anything else is just not believed. That's why I say when I would go to explain something, it's kind of difficult because most people don't want to believe it, especially if they, how do I say this without saying it? Especially if they are in a similar area. I wouldn't say the exact thing, but the similar area of what I do, but just can't get so far as to what most people see as far as I've gotten. So it's more of like trying to hold one down by their own views and neglecting or totally not wishing to acknowledge that there is actually something else in there. And it's not at all what most people think.
So they are essentially, they could try and tear their own view of you down to build their own view of themselves up. Maybe?
Yes. You see, because it becomes if we keep it, the observation of it in this relative sense, exactly what you have just said in this relative sense, it is complex because it deals with a whole bunch of different levels of psychoanalysis.
In psychosis.
Psychosis. Psychosis analysis.
well, that's two. There's essentially two selfish ways to make you feel better about yourself, right? That's to build yourself up or tear others down, right?
Yeah, that's good for the ego. I mean, it's food for the ego. When I get up in the morning, as what my sister, one of my teachers, as a child, used to do with me is when she used to live in our house. Of course, she's my sister. So in the morning, we would wake up and she would make these wicked, ugly faces at me, and I would laugh. And then she would egg me on to do the same. And then we would look in the mirror and make these stupid faces at ourselves. And there was a freedom that just came from that. And she says, every day, just do that. Don't take yourself so seriously, because there's nothing really to be serious about. And I think she was in her teens at this time. And I guess she liked the idea at that point. I don't know if she knew how deep that was going to go, but it was an empowerment for me to just sit there and look at myself and just make these ridiculous faces and be at peace with that. And then when other people would be, quote unquote negative towards me, it just wouldn't bother me. It would just slide right off.
So do you recommend everybody go make funny faces in the mirror?
I swear to you, I do. Till this day, when in the morning, my son wakes up, we look in the mirror and I just make these weird faces, and he just hysterically starts to laugh, and he starts trying to make the funny faces too. And, it's just so funny. My wife looks at us like, you're crazy. I said, of course, that's the point. And and I walk in the street, I still, till this day, I get people who just stare and go, whoa, what the hell is that? But I can tell, I acknowledge that they do that, and I know why, and it kind of just pierces through and doesn't stay, just goes right through. And it's because I don't have to sit there telling myself how to empower myself. I just don't even see the need to create a notion of a self to take care of. It's like having another child.
Yeah,
always
that's
to care for, feed,
well,
clothe.
I was going to say some of the self-confidence courses, I think one of the skills or methods or practices that they teach people is to, dress them up in some humiliating type outfit or get up and have them go stand on the corner with the sign, and basically they're just doing that to teach them essentially the same thing you just described, like, to not really give a crap what other people think about you, right?
Yeah, but you can't put on another thing and say, well, I don't care what other people say, and have this almost a very subtle sense of arrogance come out, saying, well, if you don't like me, go F yourself. That's not the point either.
That's what I was going to say, and that's the problem with some of these other systems that I'm talking about, is they're essentially using it for negative things. I don't want to get into it, but...
Mm-hmm. But if a person is going to empower themselves and tell themselves, if people don't like me, they can go and die. I can give two craps about them. Not important. I'm going to be me, and I'm that, and walk down the street with the nose high up in the air into the ionosphere or something like that, and go down and do about their lives. That's not it either, because that's also playing into the
building themselves up.
Yeah, because it's still superficial. It's still just wearing another head, or building another head on a head, or wearing more clothes, and it's like 100 degrees outside and you're just wearing sweaters. It's a lot of work to do that.
So the key, I guess, is to try and find that middle ground where you're not moved either direction. You're not moved if people think low of you, and you're not self-aggrandizing, I guess, right?
Right. And even to get to that middle point is pretty difficult. There's just, in the superficiality of giving yourself affirmations of how wonderful you are, even if you're a moron or a really, I don't want to say the bad word, but just a really not a nice person.
So like an asshole, I'll say it.
Well, for those kids who are going to listen to this, don't repeat what we say. We can use the superficial part, which is the building of a head on top of a head, or just the building of our views and self and stuff. That aspect I'm talking about is this. We can just say, regardless of what people are going to say about me, regardless of how wonderful I think I am, both of those things are not important. What's important is that I don't cause problems for other people, and other people don't find ways to cause problems to me. Therefore, you always have to check yourself.
Mm.
And you can do
So
so very easily just by not being the way you don't want, not being the kind of person you dislike.
I I don't know if this is recommended or not, but I guess it would depend on the outcome and the situation. But if somebody did think negatively of you, should you try and I don't know how to put it, but maybe it's like put your best foot forward with them, or should you try and change your mind if you're not doing it from an egotistical perspective, or is it even
Okay,
worth it?
well, it's not worth it to even open your mouth or even just acknowledge. You have to think of it as the person's talking in a language you don't understand, and you just sit there shrugging your shoulders, going, "Yeah, all right, whatever, okay," because once you sit there and go, "Oh, this person's saying something about me, I have to stand up for myself. I have to clear the air." No, it's not that you have to clear the air. By you saying, "This person is saying something about me, I have to do something about it." And even if it's the nicest way and respectful way possible, you're still empowering the idea that there is a self that must be protected and that other people also empower that view of a self. So you're creating more empowerment towards the views of separation. When someone talks weird about me or behind my back or whatever, depending on if I know that they need a chan stick whacked across the head, I would, if I know they don't need it, I just don't even bother. But most people would need one anyway. But it's a generally passing by, passerbys in the street or people that, who think they know you or even friends, just in a very non-aggressive way, quote unquote, attacking you personally kind of situation. You don't really need to, because the more you say, oh, maybe I have to do something, you're really telling yourself there's a place inside in my mind that I somehow feel attacked by what they say. And perhaps it may be true. I have to find the reasons on why it's not true. And then I have to find reasons why it must be protected and why I have to explain myself. It don't have to explain yourself, but don't be an egotistical person about not having to explain yourself. Just walk on by. Just keep going.
So I don't know. All right. So, do you think there's ever a time when someone deserves or needs to be? I guess you kind of won on that, but I mean, is it ever wrong if you're doing it for the for the other person's benefit if you crack them?
You got to see where it's going. You really have
Yeah.
to figure that out. I mean, it can be so where it's really trying to affect you, and it's a consistent attack on. I'll just use these words just for the sake of our conversation. Attack on you, and you can turn around and use your principles, and use intelligence and education and speak. But you can never make a person change their views. They have to be able to accept that. The different idea and be willing to accept it. Most may not be willing to accept it, so you may just be wasting your energy.
Or making the situation worse even.
Right, and one may feel this. I'll just say this word because I'm losing my vocabulary. Speaking Chinese too much. One may feel this overwhelming pull to say, I must at least say something in my defense. If I don't, I will always feel like I didn't do enough or I feel taken. Okay? The best way to not feel like something has been taken from you is don't have anything to be taken away. Drop your own ideas about yourself. This person says you are crazy or stupid or whatever they call you or they call one, just leave it alone because they're
What
not the world.
What what about if you kind of play along with it and said, well, you do have a point there. Maybe I am kind of crazy. I'm going to think about that.
Right. Now, excuse me, you can, if you are consciously aware that you will be that way with them, fine. But if it's a initial reaction to just turn out and have to contemplate, should I say it this way or should I say it that way? I don't want to come off like an egotistical guy, and I don't want to come off arrogant and this and that. Now
You're already caught in the trap.
You're already caught. Exactly. You're already in the chess game, and checkmate. You lost. Because you got to be honest with yourself in order to be saying the honest thing about you, so other people can get it. And when they don't get it, you did whatever you can, in the sense of, I'm not what they say, and just for the sake of them, stopping their chatter and their evil mouth karma, I just tried to fill them in a little bit. They didn't care. You know what? I'm not going to waste my time. Because they're not the whole world. There's 6 billion or more people now in the world. There's only 1 or 3 people. Who gives a heck? Who cares?
Yeah.
It's only a few people. They don't have the main pull on you. You do.
So, okay, there's that aspect. There's other people. What about external forces, say like hungry ghosts or those type of elements? Could they kind of, I know the answer, but I'm going to ask the question. Could they influence one's mind and sort of pull it in directions?
They can influence one's energy body, so that energy, that vibration is translated in our minds into ways we can acknowledge. So we may start to feel a little low energy, and we'll start to recognize that low feeling as being depressed. And then we'll wonder, why am I depressed? Am I this way? Am I that way? You start to question and doubt. And in that, you'll get lost in the doubt. So there can be external influences of the etheric nature in terms of ghosts and spirits and et cetera, et cetera. And they can influence your energy body, which in turn, the mind and the body itself will translate it into the most mundane way, the most easiest way to categorize it, recognize it. So like I said, if you feel like a little depression, you feel a little slow or low energy, right away one may start to create thoughts of what it is to be depressed, and then build up more notions about that feeling and more ideas, more thoughts about that feeling, which in turn becomes that dialogue that says, why am I depressed? Oh my God, I need to get some medication, or maybe I'm not a good person, or whatever. And then that can go into a whole other topic to record.
Yeah, that's kind of a big subject. So I guess maybe getting back to the point, it's really our own mind is the biggest culprit, right?
Yes, because when a person says anything about you, if there is the seed of that view in yourself about you, or in your mind about this you created, you will be accepting what the other people say and have conflicts within you with it.
And our mind is probably essentially like a garbage dump that's, when I say our mind, I mean most people's minds are polluted to
I don't know about
no
you,
end.
man, but
No, my mind's totally clear. I don't have any of these problems. I'm kidding, of course, but most people's minds are totally polluted, from the time we're children, and even past lives for that matter, right?
Mm.
So they probably doesn't take much to trigger these things that we have sort of repressed or buried.
No,
and,
it is metaphorically and literally like an ocean, and whatever is put in there, the ripples extend outward as far as they can go, depending on the momentum of whatever was thrown in, and it can be endless, because the mind is not in one specific place, in your body. Let's not go into that direction yet, but yes, it is just that we are bombarded by a multitude of different types of vibrations, and whichever one we feel more familiar with, that's the one we're going to attract, and then we're going to create notions about that feeling, the feelings that manifest from that vibration. And we're just going to keep thinking and thinking, and that's going to magnify the vibration in us, and we will feel, we would live just what that vibration is.
So does this boil down to essentially just examining our thoughts constantly in meditation? I mean,
Yes, you can. Meditation is key to everything because it lets us not have to quiet the mind, but it lets us get to the point where the mind will be quieted. And the actual process of doing the meditation itself is the most important part, because that's when we get to see all the nonsense and garbage we put in our mind. That's more important than actually getting to the end result, because the end result really is inevitable. We don't have to grasp for that, but most people do when they're meditating. They're looking to, oh, I can't quiet my mind. I must quiet the mind. Be quiet, you know, or they're doing things to guide them into quieting the mind. But once that guide is not there, they find it much difficult to return to or get to a state of tranquility, or what we consider to be tranquil in meditating.
They're always looking for the destination, right? And always focus there.
We can't, and you can't sit there and go, I'm going to practice my chi, you know, quote unquote, practice my chi and put my energy to this energy center or that energy center. That's keeping the mind busy. So it's easy to concentrate because you're imagining a place, even though there are places. You're imagining an energy body. You're focusing on the energy body, and you're developing or maintaining views that there is such a thing within another thing called a self or an I that you must cultivate. So the mind is still grasping, and it's still in function. So once you take that focal point away, we may or the person may have difficulty actually maintaining concentration on what they're doing when there's no focal point.
So I would think in this aspect, you know, basic mindfulness practice would probably be, I don't know if I should say the best, but the most suited.
Be helpful.
Yeah, well, naturally, right? But I mean, so if if somebody was saying something negative, like instead of trying to be taken by it, you should just try and maybe examine it, or kind of like as it wells up feelings in you, kind of try and I'm trying to think how to put this into words, but don't be taken by it, but just kind of investigate, where is this feeling coming from?
Yeah, because once feelings start to well up inside one, that person had already accepted those things. Any reaction given is being moved. So if I'm, for an example, I'm walking in the street and I hear a person saying, what the hell is he wearing? And I sit there and I start to feel, you know, what the hell's wrong with these people? They just can't get through their heads that people just live differently. I already got taken by them 100%. I've been moved. Even if I just sit there just to contemplate what the hell they said, I've been moved because my attention was brought to their the quote unquote origin of their voice. Like I was attentive to them by what they said about a me. I identified with something I considered to be a me and thought they were talking about that, and I automatically sent my energy, my hearing went to that direction and got taken. My hearing got taken.
Well, it's hard to, I mean, from my perspective, even it's hard to totally eliminate it 100%. But
it's not that it's eliminated. It's just that there's not going to be the catalyst inside. There's not going to be a seed that gets nurtured to go and grasp for anything that tries to say there is a you. I'll give you a story. There was a famous poet in China. His name is Su Dongpo. And he had a friend called, oh, no, I forget the monk's name. Oh, my God. That's not nice. Anyway, he was friends. He's a Buddhist, and he was friends with a monk. They were very good friends. And they would always argue with each other, friendly conversations with each other about the teachings of the Buddha Dharma. And this guy was a very famous poet. His poems are very, very well known out here in China. So he wrote a poem. And basically, the poem stated that the eight winds, which I don't recall at this moment what they are in Buddhism, I forget, but most of them are like praise and being honored, being praised, being ridiculed, stuff like that. So, excuse me, he wrote a poem that said he is not moved by the eight winds, and the rest of it goes that he was complimenting the Buddha on his attainments, but he also had a insinuation that he also was just as great as the Buddha, sitting on a purple golden lotus. And he wrote this poem, and he was so excited about this poem, like, damn, I'm so good, I'm going to send it to my friend. And I'm going to make him read it, because I know he's going to say, wow, Sudongpo, you're really awesome. So I'm going to send it to him. So he gave it to his servant, said, go across the river, right across the way, and give it to my friend over there. And then we'll see what he says. So he goes, and he gives it to the guy, and the monk says, he's reading it, and he looked, and you could just imagine the expression when he sees this kind of thing. He immediately says, he's complimenting the Buddha, like, hey, you're really great, guy. Buddha, you're really awesome. No one's above you, but I'm just right there with you. He goes, what a son of a bitch. So he wrote a character, he wrote a word on the manuscript, on the book or the paper that was given to him with this poem. He says, send this back to Mr. Sudongpo. So he sends it back. Servant goes back, gives it to Sudongpo. He's sitting there so excited, like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I just want to hear people praise me. I'm so awesome. Now, he wasn't such an arrogant person, but most have these kind of things that just say, hey, I'm pretty damn good, and I want other people to know that. So he opens up the letter, and he looks at it, and he has a heart attack. He says, what the hell is this? How dare he? The monk wrote the word fart, and in Chinese it's like, bullshit. Like, who you kidding? When someone says, I'll just say the reaction in Chinese, he goes, damn, I'm pretty good, aren't I? And the person next to you says, pee. Like, get the hell out of here. Like, this is bullshit. Yeah. Who are you kidding? So he wrote the character for, like bullshit or nonsense.
Passing gas.
Yeah, pretty much. Fart. And Sudongpo was so angry and so furious. He got himself over the river. He rented a boat, got over the river, and storming his way to the guy's house, the monk's room. Well, once he gets to the door of the monk's room and he's ready to bang on it, he sees a piece of paper right on the door specifically for him. I guess the monk knew that Sudongpo was going to fly over as quick as possible, pissed off. On the paper it said, the eight winds don't move me, but one fart blew you across the river. And at that moment, Sudongpo's anger and everything just shattered and melted away, and he just went, oh, you can just imagine that, oh, yeah.
Got me.
You got me. So at that point, he realized, like, he was a really wise guy too, not a bad person, like wise. He had wisdom, Sudongpo. He was really good, really intelligent. So that's why he knew his mistakes right away. He wasn't one of those, well, you don't like it, we'll go F you. He's seen it. He goes, oh yeah, you're right. Here I said the eight winds don't move me, and you told me bullshit. Fart. And no, I rode my boat all the way across the river just to get angry with you. Yep, I go back to the drawing board.
Well, the irony of these stories is that, like, you know where they're going as soon as you hear them, right? Like, basically anybody who's writing about themselves not being moved by the eight winds, yeah, if you're writing that kind of thing, yeah, you're probably already moved the fact that you're writing it.
Yeah. So this is just saying, you can say all the good things about yourself, but the second somebody says otherwise, you go on a rampage. That proves that you are not exactly what you say right away. Like if I sit there and I practice a kung fu, right? I practice a martial arts, and people play around with me, and okay, let's say I do pretty good and they don't beat me up or they don't control me. I end up controlling them. And then give some time later, and then the other people around them would say, well, yeah, Lin's kung fu isn't that good anyway. I mean, he doesn't follow specific things that we follow. And then this whole thing comes back to me. I know I would sit there and just laugh, be like, okay, but none of you were able to hit me if that was the case. So if I sit there and go, well, you know what, I'm going to write to those people, or I'm going to write a letter about this, or I'm going to get in contact with someone around there and go back over there and start playing around. They already took me. Then I'm not as good as I had presented myself to be, because it's not of physical skill. It's more of your emotional, your mental skill. How well can you control yourself, right? And that's just a what if story, stuff like that doesn't happen. But when someone just opposes what you think and you engage them, then you already have opposed you or the ideas about you, and you create much more problems, or one creates more problems.
You realize that you just described about 50% of the kung fu movies that were ever produced, right?
Your kung fu is not good. I will kill you.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Johnny said my kung fu sucks. Go and kill him. Get revenge for your honor.
All right, so we probably got about 5 minutes left. Why don't we? Do you want to maybe get into some recommendations for?
Well, this is how you can fix this. Yes. Let's get into how we can fix it. Instead of jumping off a roof, or, doing drugs or coloring your hair and, whatever, instead of changing the superficial, when you know the kind of person you are is good and decent, you should ask yourself, when there's opposing views about you, am I as what these people say? Okay? Ask yourself. And then investigate it. Am I this way? If I'm not this way, okay, good. Screw it. If I am this way, well then, how? Why? Find out. Ask yourself more questions. Interview yourself. Where did you get these ideas from? Who influenced you from this? Where did you go that you thought you had to be this specific way? What movie did you see? What music did you see or hear? What music video did you see? What kind of views do you believe about the world? Because if you're getting moved by other people's views about you, well, obviously somewhere along the line, you believed what they say is true. And now you're trying to oppose their views by living the lifestyle you like, and you're uncomfortable about it because you're not really being honest, that you are afraid that these people will make fun of you, or these people would oppose you. But let's say you're doing the opposite. Let's say you are a moron, does really bad things to people, and then you get off on other people praising you on being a wonderful person, and you get angry when someone tells you that you are exactly what you know you are. So that the conflict, it becomes very complex. Again, if that's the case, you should still do the same thing and ask yourself, what the hell's wrong with me?
I just wanted to mention, like you said earlier, that even if people are, if you get to the point where you ask yourself, that you essentially are already moved by it, I would, especially people starting out in mindfulness practice, I wouldn't want them to get too hung up on that. I think that's normal that you are going to be moved, especially at when you first start this stuff. And, hopefully the more you practice it, the less you're going to be moved, right?
Well, yeah, it's normal because no one decides to look at it. So it becomes just the way things are. But with mindfulness practice, you must ask yourself these questions, and you will be moved because that's what's been happening. And then you won't have to ask the questions anymore because you're not going to be moved over time. It's going to be so normal for you. Yeah, well, people are going to be the way they are. Oh, well, it's none of my business. It's my business what I think of me.
I just don't want anyone to get any false notions that, to try and repress things or try and deceive themselves that they're not moved when, they are moved, because that's almost even worse.
Right. The best way to overcome anything is to be honest with yourself. Tell yourself the truth. Say, look, I am bothered by what these people think, and I want to try to stop them from thinking this way. But first, you have to stop yourself from acknowledging in you that there is something wrong with you. You have to stop bothering with this notion that there is something wrong. Because if someone says you're a nutso, and you sit there complaining and crying that these people are talking bad about you and you have to stop them, well, then there's a problem in you first. So you have to acknowledge that and then let it go. Just stop. Stop bothering with there being a problem with you and get the work started and get it over with. Yes, I have this problem. I am bothered by what people say about me. I have to be accepted by other people. Then look at why you are that way. What makes you believe you must be that way?
So I guess in closing, I would just like to say to all the listeners that you're all nuts. So you go investigate if there's any truth in that statement.
And if you're not sure if that's true, just realize you're listening to our radio show.
Which reinforces the fact that you're nuts.
Reinforces the fact you're crazy.
All right, well, let's call it a wrap on that. And I want to thank everybody for listening to Expedient Means at Linne Way and Time on Radio. And join us next week as we discuss reciprocation. Reciprocation.
Reciprocation.
Reciprocation. All right, thanks, Len.
Bye.